Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode is based on Scarbo, the third movement from Ravel's Gaspard de la Nuit suite. This tutorial is going to be in two parts. We will cover through bar 395 in this tutorial, and then we will cover from there to the end. It's where the main, the principal idea comes back. So we will pick up in part two from there. So this tutorial will go to that point. If you'd like to listen to a professional recording I made of this about 12 years ago, it's been a while, you can find that online. I made an album called Gaspard where I did I did the whole Gaspard suite by Ravel, and then I also did some of my favorite works by Chopin on that. Now, that's a pretty note-perfect performance. I'm going to do something I'm very self-conscious of. My wife's like, don't be self-conscious, just share it. You have an educational channel. I'm going to share a performance I gave last night at the Utah State University Summer Piano Festival. They invited me to be the guest artist this year, and I played Bach Busoni Chaconne, a Volados transcription, the whole Gaspard suite, and then a Chopin scherzo. So I'm going to pull the Scarbo recording from last night. Not my best playing, but it is what it is. And that's important to remember. You're going to be on different pianos. The piano does come into play in a piece like Scarbo big time with repetitions. This piano's a little faster than the one last night. That piano's a little faster than this one. But you have to be able to adapt. And I did my best. It wasn't perfect by any means. So have a fun time making fun of me in the comments. But before we get started, by listening to that recording, so you can kind of see what a live performance looks like of that from someone who's not unbelievable, like Argerich or something like that. I will go ahead and read the poem. We'll jump into the performance, and then we'll jump into the tutorial. Here goes. This translation's by Jeremy Drake, and these poems were the basis of Ravel's pieces. These were written by Aloysius Bertrand, and it goes as follows. Oh, how many times have I heard and seen him, Scarbo, when at midnight the moon shines in the sky like a silver shield on an azure banner encrusted with golden bees. How many times have I heard his buzzing laughter in the shadow of my alcove and his fingernails scratching on the silken curtains of my bed? How many times have I seen him come down from the ceiling, pirouette on one foot, and twirl through the room like a spindle fallen from a witch's distaff? Did I then think he had passed out? The dwarf would rise between the moon and me like a steeple of a Gothic cathedral, a golden bell jingling on his pointy cap. But soon his body would turn blue, diaphanous as candle wax, his face turned pale as dying light, and suddenly he was fading away. And you can really hear that at the end. Just kind of melts away, as he says in the poem. So without further ado, here is, reluctantly, my performance from last night of Scarbo. All right, I hope you either enjoyed that or found things that you would like to do differently. Let's jump into the tutorial. I'm going to go into as much detail as possible without making this into an 8-hour tutorial. So I'm not going to be going over every finger number of the piece. I'll do my best to hit all of the most important things, because if you're playing something like this, you should have a good grasp on fundamentals of piano technique and have played a lot of advanced repertoire. But I will still show you many things in this tutorial that have been helpful to me as I've studied this over many years. I just brought it back. This is the first time I've probably played it in, I would guess, maybe 8 to 10 years. It's been a long time. Brought it back just a couple months ago for this concert. So it's been a lot of fun to revisit this. So he marks, I would highly recommend this Henley app, purchasing the score off of this. It's, $8 or $9, I think, for Scarbo. Such a good deal for all the information you get. They have this little feature that you can press any of the translations. I don't speak French, so you can quickly find that rather than having to look it up online or in a dictionary. So Sordine, I hope that's how you say it. So playing it with the una corda pedal. So you're going to start as mysteriously as possible. Now, in my old recording, I was very slow here. And then, which, as I've, grown a little bit wiser over the years, I'm like, hey, that's completely wrong. Whatever you are here is how I want you to pace it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you want to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's long, very long. And I personally don't do 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That would be how you would count it. I always just, I learned this when I was quite young, and I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, because you can do 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, so 9, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I just count the groups of 4. The way I like to do this, some people will do like 4, 3, 2, 1. I found that got a little busy in my hand, and it's harder to control. I like a 1, 2 back and forth. In one of the editions, it was saying to just quiver like that. I could never get it fast enough to even come close to the right tempo for that. A little piece of advice for doing these repetitions. There's been perfect renditions of this, of course, but in live performances that I've heard of this, people still don't always nail all of these. What I like to do to give myself the best chance of hitting as many of them as clearly as possible is to stay down in the key, and I actually like to watch the hammer. You can see when the hammer, there's something about the hand-eye coordination that allows you to do that. So when you go down here, if you're on a grand piano, you got to lean your whole body over here to get your eyesight beyond that big metal piece right there later on in the piece that we'll cover in part 2. So that's just a little piece of advice. Watch the hammer through the music desk if you have your music up, and just try to stay down in the key. But I'm also active. You notice I'm not just staying here, because it's not actually going to repeat. So I've got to be pretty active in my fingers. You can almost think of rocking back and forth like a little seesaw. And I like to bring out that first one, and then very soft on the next one. Hold your hands here. Don't, let go, and then, here we go. This poem is about this gnome-like creature haunting a man, whether this is a hallucination or probably is. But you have to put yourself, or a woman, it doesn't say man or woman, haunting this person scratching the silken curtains, jumping out, scaring them. You can hear the little jingling bell on his hat. It's very weird, psychotic material, demonic, and you want to capture that. So on this yada, it's unnerving. I don't like to. I've taught this once or twice over the last decade or so, and students would have a tendency to go pretty slow on this, like my old recording, and hold on to that too long. I've come to like this much more. Some people like a little bit more subdued, but still accented. How do we contrast the first one to the second one? So bar 2 versus bar 9. I like the first one to be a little bigger, and then this one, maybe just voice the thumb a little bit more. 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess it's 1, 2, 3 fermata. It's 1, 2, 3 fermata, 2, 3. Start this so slow. I like to think of floorboards creaking, being very scared. Okay, and then this is like a scream. 5 measures of growth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. 2 of decay. So it's a longer build up and then dying away. And by the way, I think, there is no rest there, but I always liked resetting. And Ravel writes just getting faster as you go up. So I actually slow my tempo down to make that effect. More extreme. Still pretty soft, right in the middle register. I always tell my students, professionals wait to do things. So don't get big too soon. It will sound more exponential, it'll sound scarier, and it will save your energy. And then you can really dig into that last octave. I use 5-4-2 on the first one. All the other ones I use 4-3-1, and that's, sorry. And then I cross over for strength. This piano's pretty bright, but I never really, on many other pianos, got as bright as I wanted. So I always crossed over with 2 and 3, like that. I'm mostly hitting it with 3, but I like to brace my finger with 2 for extra strength there. Also, if you're flatter, you have a greater chance of hitting that black key and not sliding off and accidentally hitting the whites. So flatter and just come down. Okay. Tremolos like this. So he says pianissimo subito, so suddenly, extremely quietly, going all the way to fortissimo over those 5 measures. He marks lively as well as the character marking or the tempo marking. Whenever you're doing a tremolo, very quickly, that took me a while to get that 2-handed tremolo really good in La Campanella. Luckily, I'd had Scarbo to prep me for it. I think maybe the Scarbo one's a little harder because it's with chords. One thing that I like to do is, again, stay down in the keys, but the key is find your slower hand. You're going to start doing, if you were to do it in slow motion, you would start doing that, or the first one, left hand's too slow, right hand's too slow. So you find what hand you tend to be slower with. Everybody's going to probably go one way or the other when they push to their very fastest speed. And then you let that hand lead. I notice that my left hand's slower, so I let my left hand lead. 1, 2. or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you can get into this gorgeous sweeping line. Okay, so regaining tempo. Sorry. I was playing the other one. There we go. So really, don't start too big, but voice this really well. And I like 4, 5, 5, 4, 5. Coming down quite soft and go up to there. So it really plays into this demonic sweeping, being thrown around emotionally. This is easy. This line is not hard. Compared to the recipes, it's still not super easy. But the reason I bring that up is don't rush that. When I was younger, I always used to go like, oh, this is easy. And then you get going. And then you're like, oh, shoot. When you get to here and you're like, I can't keep up. So whatever tempo you set here, be bigger on that. Just like at the beginning with these. Same thing here. Much softer, but still voice that E sharp. And then you can just do a tremolo like that, but I liked to pulse this out 45 through 50. So downbeat always comes with the left hand. What that allowed me to do is yum, bum, 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 bum. Grade a diminuendo much easier. By the way, it's not going to be that convincing of a diminuendo because whenever you're playing repeated notes on piano, the sound tends to kind of build a little bit, so you got to be extra quiet. So I just become I'm more defined to less defined is probably a better way of saying it. Okay, fingering here, I've experimented. I used to do 3, 2, 1, 2, 3.